Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our team video. The name of our group is Team Edu Design Squad, and we've got Jared, Lauren, and myself, Crystal. So we'll begin with our portfolio artifacts, and Jared will go first.
All right, so for this week, it's just expanding upon the different instructional design theories. And we were tasked with creating a memo to either the educator or the learners. So since my presentation was on fostering diversity and inclusion towards the employees, I made the memo for the employees. And so the learning objective, again, was just that all employees will understand how they can contribute to creating and maintaining a diverse and inclusive work environment. So here is the memo that would be sent out via email from the HR department. And just as a part of our unwavering commitment to creating a diverse and inclusive work environment, it is crucial for each of us to actively contribute to this objective. To support our learning objective of making our organization a fully diverse and inclusive place to work, we have outlined specific actions that every employee can or should undertake to achieve our objective. All actions suggested or required will be based upon the structured learning theory and constructivism instructional design theories. You will combine your prior knowledge with active involvement within the learning process to achieve the overarching learning objective. Action items are broken down into two separate categories, which are requirements and suggestions. So basically the requirements would be the educate, participate, and practice. So for educate, they will participate in online training modules on diversity and inclusion. It'll include a variety of different media, including reading articles, viewing videos, and listening to a variety of podcasts. And they will be exposed to actual, current, and former employees sharing their experiences and perspectives to gain a greater understanding of diversity and inclusion of others who may be different from them. And then for participation, they'll be required to participate in one weekly huddle meeting, and that will focus on diversity and inclusion topics. And they'll focus on inclusive language, active listening, empathy, and effective communication concepts. And then for the practice, once per month, they will have an inclusive communication activity within their department meeting. And then for the suggestions, to support the ERGs, the employee resource groups, and they will be able to attend different planned events, review different printed materials, or go through different simulated scenarios among group members to foster a greater understanding of diverse perspectives. And then to reflect, they're going to be encouraged to participate in reflections that will be sent out via email. And they will be, employees will be asked to reflect upon their own biases and behaviors. And then influences, they will be asked to contribute to any request seeking, any ideas for improving the company's diversity and inclusion initiatives. And then any kind of opportunities for suggestions and feedback to provide any potential solutions that they can think of. And by completing the requirements and then hopefully participating in the suggested activities will help create a more inclusive and welcoming environment for all employees within the organization. And that's it. Any questions?
Awesome. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks.
All right, Lauren, you're up.
All right, so for my portfolio artifact, it was over a curriculum redesign scenario, and it focused on the different learning sciences. So the scenario is your school district has tasked you with redesigning the K-2 science curriculum utilizing the newly adopted state TEKS. The elementary campuses currently use consumable workbooks, supplementing with teacher-created worksheets and a few hands-on activities. The district wants to embrace more current learning models. So then our challenge is to update the new curriculum to reflect learning sciences. And then there'll be a few questions I'm answering. The first question is, which principles of learning sciences will you apply to the curriculum? What type of instructional activities will you include? How would you design the learning environment for greater motivation, volition, and performance? And then how will it differ from the current traditional classroom environments? So the next couple of pages are going to talk more about the question, which principles of learning will you apply? So the first thing, it's effective curriculum development should consider the principles of scaffolding and the zone of proximal development. By providing appropriate support and gradually increasing the complexity of tasks, educators can help students achieve their full potential and facilitate meaningful learning experiences. The next is the 5 learning elements. These are important to consider with your new curriculum. Openness, which is creating an inclusive and transparent environment where diverse perspectives are valued. Commitment, where dedication to the learning process, setting goals, and maintaining motivation. Innovation is using new methods, technologies, and approaches to enhance education. Differentiation is tailoring instruction to meet diverse needs of learners. And then transformation is implementing fundamental changes to create meaningful and lasting impact on learners. And then we have motivation, volition, and performance, or MVP. So motivation is the internal process towards achieving goals. Volition is the will to perform a task, and that would be pushing through no matter what obstacles come in your way. And then performance is combining with both of these. It would be the accomplishment of the task and the level of success that they achieve. On the next page, it just dives more into motivation, volition, and performance, and the importance of the zone of proximal development, which just specifies that students really need socialization and peer support in their daily activities. And then to make it exciting and meaningful to the students so that they will have that volition, that motivation to keep doing it. And then tailoring learning to real world experiences and to the student interests to just keep them on track and to perform well. So on this page, it answers the question of how will it differ from the current traditional classroom environments? So creating a classroom environment that meets all the needs of modern students while still following the learning sciences is a monumental task. It can be achieved by ensuring the socialization aspect of learning is being met with plenty of opportunities to collaborate, like a group research project or peer partner activities. Students in the K-2 age group love to work together and they thrive on that collaborative engagement. So using small group instruction is also a great option for this age group to provide differentiation. When deciding on how to group students, consider heterogeneous grouping, learning objectives and outcome, and that zone of proximal development. On this side, this would be how I would format my curriculum, like what you would see in the classroom for the teacher. I would put them into 4 different groups and have rotations. And each one you could have a teacher table where heterogeneous groups that are focusing on closing that ZPD gap. This is where differentiation takes center stage and learning can be tailored to each student. The focus is on finding strengths and challenges for students on a concept or a skill, and then the teacher can work on that with that group. The next group would be reading. Students can find books or articles related to the current topic, and they can read that independently or to a peer partner. Another option is that teachers can assign books using Epic or a similar reading app. The third one would be technology. So students would utilize interactive online resources such as Seesaw, Wixie, Lumio, GimKit, Google Classroom, and there's plenty of others. All of these, they use a lot of interactive activities that could be tailored to each student. So the groups can be assigned different activities based on skill level if they need, or you could even give it to each individual student. The last one, which is very important for the zone of proximal development, and for motivation and volition too, is the group or partner practice. So instead of having that individual work, you would have peers, and the students would observe and record their findings on the current topic at hand, and then they can share their observations with their team and then compare it. This can be a game, an exit ticket, or even just a journal. So this is my example of what type of instructional activities I would include. My example is on sound energy, and this is an actual TEK that we face for energy. So sound energy, you could do, your teacher table would have students observing what happens when using cup phones, which is where you tie two cups together with a string, and the students would whisper in one end and the other person would listen. This would help them observe the concept of energy traveling by vibrations, and the teacher could explain it. They can also talk about observing it when it's happening. During your teacher table, key concepts and vocabulary can be introduced and discussed during that time. During your reading rotation, the teacher can pre-select a variety of sound energy books from the school library. The books are also assigned on Epic with appropriate reading levels per child, and then students can read those independently or with a peer partner. I think going on Epic really helps so that each student, whether they're on a lower level of reading or whether they're way above their grade level, they can have a book that's tailored to them. The technology group can be seesaw assignment over sound energy. You can also use Wixie or Lumio or any other website. This is an interactive activity where they can show the application of their prior knowledge and their current understanding of sound energy. This is usually an independent task unless they need help from a peer partner. And then our last group, which was the group practice, you get a bunch of plastic bottles. I usually reuse water bottles, and you fill them with different materials like beads, water, paper shreds, cotton balls, styrofoam shapes, anything you can find that will be different from each other. And then in partners, the students will shake each bottle and record it on a handout. I have one called the Types of Vibration. And they would answer questions such as, what do you feel, what do you see, and what do you hear? And then they compare and discuss those findings with their partner in their group. And then I do have that team leaders can assist whenever they need to in each of those rotations. This last page just talks about how you can, what using all of this will help with motivation and volition. So using peer groups and partners help keep a student motivated when they can learn from, or if they can assist a classmate. Customized digital learning platforms and assignments provide meaningful real-world activities that are interesting to students. And then there's plenty of socialization and collaboration opportunities when you're doing rotations. For volition, partners and group work are great ways to help students stay on track when expectations are clearly communicated before rotations begin. And then this rotations breaks learning into smaller, more attainable chunks, and it provides more opportunities to achieve goals, which then boosts that student confidence. And then I believe my next page is my references. Yeah.
Awesome job, Lauren. Thank you. There we go. All right, and I will share my portfolio artifact. For assignment 4, we had to review the chapters and then come up with a professional scenario based on one of the chapters. So I chose ethics. I find that it is something that needs to be discussed a lot more. And so I've created a scenario where we're navigating ethical challenges in education technology. In the rapidly evolving field of education technology, professionals are often confronted with complex ethical dilemmas that require careful consideration and adherence to established ethical principles. The AECT, also known as the Association for Education, Communication, and Technology, it provides a comprehensive code of ethics to guide practitioners in their daily practice and foster a deeper understanding of ethical implications across various domains. This case study explores an ethical challenge faced by an education technologist or instructional designer, e-learning developer, and highlights the importance of ethical competence, self-reflection, and adherence to professional standards. So let's check out and see what her dilemma is. So Jessica is a seasoned instructional designer at a prominent online university. She was tasked with developing a cutting-edge virtual reality training program for healthcare professionals. The program aimed to simulate high-risk medical scenarios, allowing learners to practice critical decision-making skills in a safe and immersive environment. So during the development process, Jessica encountered a significant ethical dilemma. The university had partnered with a leading VR technology company to provide the necessary hardware and software for the training program. However, the company's terms of service included a clause that granted them unrestricted access to the learner's biometric data collected during the VR simulations, including heart rate, eye movements, and stress levels. Jessica was deeply concerned about the potential misuse of the sensitive data or the personal data, and it could potentially violate learners' privacy and compromise the trust and integrity of the training program. However, rejecting the company's terms of service could jeopardize the entire project and deprive healthcare professionals of a valuable learning opportunity. So there's some things that Jessica needs to think about so that she may be able to know how to move forward. First, she needs to find out or remind herself of what her commitment is to individuals, what her commitment is to society, and what her commitment is to professionals or to her profession, okay? So Jessica has a responsibility to ensure that the learning resources and technologies she provides are safe, respectful, and protect the privacy and well-being of the learners. Allowing unrestricted access to sensitive biometric data could potentially violate this principle. Next thing she needs to consider is her commitment to society. You know, as an educational technologist, Jessica has a duty to uphold honesty, integrity, and ethical practices in her work. Compromising learners' privacy and trust could undermine the credibility and effectiveness of the training program, ultimately impacting the quality of healthcare services provided to society. And then next, she needs to think of her commitment to the profession. Jessica must adhere to the professional standards and ethical guidelines set forth by the AECT. Failing to address the ethical concerns surrounding data privacy could be seen as a violation of these standards and could potentially damage the reputation of the educational technology profession. So in trying to make the best decision, these are some steps that Jessica can take. First, she needs to reflect, do a little self-reflection, then maybe some consultation, then the consequence of analysis, and then make a decision, and then justify her decision. So Jessica could critically examine her own values, ethical principles, and potential impact of her decision on learners, the university, and the broader healthcare community. Then she can seek guidance from colleagues, subject matter experts, the university's ethics committee, and relevant professional organizations to gather diverse perspectives and insights on the ethical implications of her decision. After that, Jessica can carefully consider the potential consequences of accepting or rejecting the company's terms of service, including the impact on learners' privacy, the effectiveness of the training program, and the university's reputation. And then after weighing all the factors, Jessica should make an informed decision and be prepared to justify her choice based on ethical principles, professional standards, and a commitment to promoting learner privacy, trust, and ethical practices in education technology. So to conclude, ethical dilemmas in the field of education technology are complex and often require careful deliberation, self-reflection, and adherence to professional standards and ethical principles. By developing ethical competence through consultation, consequence analysis, and a thorough decision-making process, education technologists can navigate these challenges and uphold their commitment to individuals, society, and the profession. Ultimately, ethical decision-making is critical for maintaining the integrity, effectiveness, and trust in education technology practices. Here are my references. So there we go. Good job, everyone. Now we can kind of dialogue and ask our questions.
Well, Crystal, since you went last, I want to ask a question of yours. So which one of the four within like the decision-making process do you think is most important?
I think they're all important, but most important, I do think that the self-reflecting process is important because you need to be able to examine your own values and your own ethical principles and the potential that your impact has on yourself and the people that you're working with. So knowing who you are and what decisions you're going to make and knowing that those decisions are going to rest on you, you can't blame anyone else for it. Taking that into perspective, I think, is the most important thing that you can do, because we all have a choice. You know, we can't get used to just blaming other people. So self-reflecting, figuring out who you are and what it is that you're going to do based on the morals and values that you have is most important.
I'll ask you a question too, since you went last. I know you kind of went through the steps, but how would you suggest Jessica what she would do to solve her dilemma?
Okay, great question. I would suggest that Jessica go through the process that I just went through. First, she needs to reflect. Who is Jessica? What are her morals? What does she stand for? And then when she figures out who she is, hopefully she has by now. If she hasn't, she can figure it out in this dilemma. When she figures out who she is, then she can think, okay, I'm an honest person and I want to do the right thing. If she's not 100% sure on what to do, after she has self-reflected, then she needs to talk to her coworkers. She needs to go to the professionals that are close by and the ones that she has access to and talk to them about the situation. They may be able to give her information that she does not have. And so after dialoguing and collaborating with her coworkers, then she'll be able to see whether or not she should accept or reject the terms of conditions. So just going through that process will help her come to a decision, finding out who she is, what she wants to do, working with her coworkers. And if she's an honest person, then she'll really have to critically think, who do I want to go to? Who else is honest within this office that I can trust will give me good information? And after she's gone through that process, then she can make her decision and deal with the consequences. Because we all have a choice when it comes to ethics. You can either make a good decision or a bad decision. You can make a bad decision based on money and wanting to keep your job. So really knowing who you are and what you want to do, it's the starting process, and it's a domino effect for what you're going to do later, whether you're going to end up getting fired because you made the wrong choice, because you made the wrong decision, or you're going to end up making your company look great and doing something wonderful, not only for yourself, but the learners and everyone else involved. Any other questions?
Jared, I was going to skip over to Jared and ask my question for you. So how do you feel you can convey your tone in the memo so it's not sounding so demanding, but rather to spread that information and just get the message across that you intend?
Sure. So I believe that like with the memo, the tone really just needs to have the nature of we're all one, we're one group, we're under one organization, we're one company. So the tone of the language that was used basically just our commitment to creating a diverse and inclusive work environment, just bringing each employee and having them kind of buy into what the objective is, which is basically just all understanding one another, all of our differences, and putting those aside because we are just one organization, I think is the most beneficial. Yeah.
In that line of thought, just being one and having, an organization, I think of unity. When I think of unity, I think of the popularity that DEI has gotten, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, would you say that that has become more important over the last 10 to 15 years? Or is it still the same as it was, the focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion? Has it been more intense in recent years, or is it the same throughout the last 10, 15 years?
I
And
think
why?
it's I mean, DE and I is now like it's buzzworthy. So I do think that it's increased a lot over the last 15 years, and I'm thankful for it because we need it. So I think that there's been recognition to understand that we have our differences, but we need to understand those differences and then kind of understand how we can work together through those. So I'm very happy that it is now buzzworthy. And I want it to continue to stay that way. Like for instance, my company started with 2 ERG groups. Now we're up to, I believe, 8. So it's just the constant expansion of understanding, learning, and how we can all come together as one, I think is beneficial.
Awesome. Thank
And
you.
Lauren, for you, I have a question. Yeah, no problem. So I believe I seen in the presentation that like you pair, stronger learners or learners who or students who are picking up the material a little bit better or quicker than others. So you'll pair them up with somebody who may be struggling a little bit. How do you determine how that works? How do you determine like that there's somebody who's picking it up a little bit quicker or better than somebody else who might be struggling?
That's a great question. I love that. So what we normally do is we look at a lot of different kinds of data. We do have a test that we do at the beginning of the year, at the middle of the year, and the end of the year that covers a wide range of concepts. We can group based off of that. We also have quarter testing we look at. And then I just have testing I do that a lot of times the students don't even realize I'm doing, but it's at my teacher table when I have their group. A lot of times I call it my exit ticket. To end my group, to leave my table, you have to turn in this exit ticket, which is just answering a question about whatever concept we're on. And then I could see immediately whether they got the question easy or if they just completely are off the mark, they missed it. And I can use that for next time, for usually just the next day. I can either change the groups up a little bit to match them better, or I can focus more on that concept that they are missing, that they might have a gap in. We also look at their reading levels. I did say in my presentation that a group leader. So I have students that come to me that can't read. They're on a kindergarten level. They just know their basic words, sometimes less than that. They don't know how to sound their words out. And in second grade, when we start talking about these bigger topics like sound energy and matter, how are they going to complete the assignment if they can't even read those concepts? So I will partner them up with someone that's a really good reader. Sometimes I have students that are above their level or they're right where they should be, but they're able to help their peers. And then it gives them that confidence for both students. Either the one that is the higher level, they have that confidence of mastering it and being able to teach that to someone. And then the lower level has it where it's not like they're in trouble or that they're less. It's just that they can get help from a friend instead of always getting it from the teacher and being kind of singled out. And those peer partners really help with that socialization aspect too. So I really feel like I've learned that even more this week with the zone of proximal development, motivation, volition, just how important socialization is and how much their peers impact them and influence them in their learning. So when it comes to grouping them, I think it's so important to think about how they can work together, what that's why I put heterogeneous. So I don't like to put the groups all in one same level. You don't want one whole group of just low students that maybe don't have the same abilities, or they have the same abilities. So then they're all struggling. They don't have a peer to look to for help. I like to mix the groups up just a little bit so they can lean on each other. And they can also see different perspectives in those groups as well.
That makes sense.
Awesome. And I love the idea of having group and partner practice. So with your group and partner practices, especially at such a young age, you mentioned second grade and some of them can't read, so they maybe can't write. Well, how do you assess the group work that they do? And after you've done assessments, how do you make modifications in the future?
So a lot of times, as long as time allows, but I always try to bring them back to the very end, to the carpet, and we go over what worked and what didn't work. And I can look at the handouts that they have, that they fill in their observation sheets, and see what they figured out in their group. And I'll ask them each question. So I usually have 4 groups, 4 to 5. And I can ask each group questions about what they observed and how it may be different from their other peers that they observed, or maybe it's the same, and talk about how they got there. And a lot of times you can tell whether they're actually working together or if one person did all of the work. But I've noticed they really love to share their perspective of it. So they typically do pretty good of working together and helping each other find it out. And then what I told Jared is that I take that information and help me with grouping. So if one group did really awesome, but this group just didn't quite make that mark, I could split those groups up and kind of mesh them together, and see who the strong people are over here, and that they could maybe help this group over here. So then the next week or the next day, they could help them with that concept to really master it. I was going to make another point and I forgot it. About groups. I don't know, it's gone, but I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Great job, everyone. Does anyone have any last words they want to say?
Okay.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for watching, y'all.